Expose a big difference in how the most common crimes are investigated in Oregon and Washington. Oregon is way ahead of Washington, going after burglars and other property crimes by using DNA to catch thieves. We want to know why Washington isn't doing the same thing.
Notice the door cracked open.
It was the middle of the day when Diane Ingalls came home to realize her Southeast Portland house was hit by a burglar. Her husband found an orange juice bottle in the sink. The crime lab found DNA. It says the DNA belongs to Christopher Lathrop, who apparently got thirsty. Court records say Lathrop also did a series of other burglaries in Oregon. But in Washington, where Lathrop also has a criminal record for bringing meth and a gun into the Lucky Eagle Casino, police would not know if he left his DNA behind. Washington's crime lab rarely tests DNA collected from non-violent crimes, even though they make up the vast majority of crimes.
Oregon traditionally has taken more property crimes.
Gary Shuttler runs DNA testing at Washington's 5 crime labs, including the one in Vancouver. He tells us DNA here is processed in the following order: cases where there's an immediate threat to the community, followed by pending trial dates, then violent crimes, and finally property crimes. Only 20% of the DNA processed in Washington's lab is from things like burglaries or car prowls, even though they represent 80% of all crimes committed.
That is definitely where almost all of our resources are going to, the violent crimes, and when you have limited resources, that's the way you should approach it. But if we had sufficient resources, we could start making a dent into that other 80%.
In Oregon, where DNA from those nonviolent property crimes is tested, the lab has a 48% hit rate. That means the lab finds a match between the DNA found at the scene of the crime and someone in their DNA database, someone like Christopher Lathrop. Well, now Oregon's forensic scientists are up to more than 6,000 DNA hits on items and samples they've analyzed. Washington's number is much lower. And remember, Washington has nearly twice the population. Washington's crime lab knows the power of DNA. Here in the Vancouver crime lab, scientists did a test project several years ago. Of the 159 samples they tested, they came back with 89 names. So why hasn't Washington continued with the program? Money. The crime lab has asked the legislature for more, but Washington state has had other priorities. That leaves police frustrated they can't catch burglars before they commit crimes that are worse.
It's all connected. And so we're really, by just focusing on violent crimes, we're missing a big element of an investigative tool that we could use to help solve more and more violent crimes too.
Now, there is an advantage to only testing DNA from violent crimes. Washington's backlog is about 2.5 months. In Oregon, it is 4 months.
Very interesting story.